Welcome, everyone, to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Coming up on today's show, the Super Bowl is next weekend. We'll take a look at some early leans for the big game, sides, and props as well. Plus, Kenny Bets Big is here to share some college hoop knowledge and bets for us and for the weekend. And you know it, you've got some Mox Locks coming your way. So let's go ahead and welcome him in. Kenny Bets Big. I can't talk today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Feeling a lot better since the Chiefs won that big bet I put in that we talked about last week, and
that was a sweat.
Coming down to the end of the football season. So got one game left, and hopefully we make some more money on it.
I know. Well, I'm glad that you cashed on that one, and yeah, we'll have to get into we will get into the Super Bowl in just a minute. But first, let's start with some Mox thought. And talk about these new hires in the coaching carousel, if you will. Sean Payton returns, this time as the head coach for the Broncos after Denver acquired him for their 2023 first-round pick. They had the 29th overall, the 2024 second-round pick, and a 2024 third-round pick. And then, of course, D'Amico Ryans of the 49ers as a DC. He is now going home to the Texans. He was the favorite for them, of course. He had a very impressive season with the 49ers, and he was drafted by the Texans and spent a majority of his career there. When I look at these hires and then I look at how the win totals for both of these teams were last season, I have a question for you. So both those teams had disappointing seasons. Obviously, you don't need a new head coach if you had a great season. The Texans' win total opened up at the beginning of 2022, 4.5, the lowest among all of the teams. They ended 3-13-1. Broncos opened at 10, a lot more promise there, and they ended the season 5-12. What do you think these head coaches are going to be able to do in terms of these teams' wins? Are you expecting a higher win total for the Texans and or the Broncos with D'Amico and Sean Payton?
So for the Texans, no. I think they still had a pretty solid coach last year. And, they ultimately let him go because they won that final game of the season, which cost them the number one overall pick in the draft, which, kind of stupid when you're a bad team. But yeah, D'Amico Ryans is a very good coach, great defensive mind. He played a little bit for the Texans. So I think over the long term, it's a very good fit. But the Texans just don't really have the pieces to turn it around from one year to the next, right? Yeah. So I think it'll be a little bit more of a rebuilding process for D'Amico Ryans, and it's going to take a little bit of time. So don't really see much of a change for them going forward for next year. And for the Broncos, the win total was set pretty high last year because the expectations were so high.
Yeah.
Right? Like the expectations were very high when they acquired Russell Wilson. And I know you and I both, we both said we don't really see this Broncos team really translating to what the expectations were. Do I think the offensive struggles will get better for the Broncos with Sean Payton? Yes, I think so. He's an offensive genius when it comes to football. So I think he'll definitely help them. But still, you look at that division, the Chiefs, the Chargers, like the Broncos at best are the third best team in that division. So I don't really see too much for the Broncos. I think Russ is a little overrated.
I think that their win total is going to drop. I can't imagine it's going to be 10 again. I wonder if that'll drop down to maybe like 7 or 8. I think they'll win more than 5 games. I do think that Russell Wilson is overrated, but I think that Sean Payton is clearly a better coach than Nathaniel Hackett. And I just don't think that Russell Wilson and Hackett kind of ever got on the same page. And I do know that one of Russell Wilson's favorite quarterbacks was Drew Brees. And, so I'm sure he's excited. So I feel like the books aren't going to put him at 10 again. Maybe they'll put him at 7 and then I don't know what exactly I do there, but I think they get more than 5 wins. But I agree with you. I agree with you on D'Amico Ryans. I think that it's going to be more of a build. You look at even Robert Saleh, took him a couple seasons to get the Jets, over their win total, if you will. Some of these teams that have all of the pieces, it could happen pretty fast, but I'm not sure, to your point, that the Texans are one of those teams. All right, we're going to take a quick break before we come back for Capper's Corner. With Caesars Sportsbook and Casino, every bet earns with Caesars Rewards. That means whether you win or lose, you're always earning towards perks like free stays at iconic Caesars properties, game tickets, dining, and more. And if you haven't started yet, here's a reminder. Your first bet is on Caesars, up to $1,250. Download the app with promo code OMAHAFULL and place your first bet. If you win, congrats. If you don't, you'll get your stake back as a bet credit. Time now for Capper's Corner. Let's welcome back in Kenny Bets Big and talk early Super Bowl leans. And yes, we're going to be talking about this for 2 weeks straight, so you might as well get used to it. Eagles are the favorite, minus 125 on the money line. Chiefs 105, plus 105. Spread 1.5. It's been kind of going up and down here, and the over under 50.5. What are you looking at game side here, Kenny?
I'm sticking with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They got to this point. Patrick Mahomes, State Farm Stadium. The spokesperson for State Farm
Oh,
just seems
I
like
didn't think about that.
crazy,
Good
right?
idea.
And no one's
Mhm.
really talking about that.
Mhm.
When you see how that Chiefs Bengals game ended, some questionable calls or no calls, maybe it plays into it. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes again. I said it last week when they played the Bengals. This is just like, these are not situations you will find often when it comes to betting, especially in football, where you're getting Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best player in the NFL, as an underdog, fading the public and where all the money is. Mahomes for his career as an underdog or a favorite under a field goal, 13-6 straight up, 15-4 against the spread. So he's very, very good. His teams in those games average 32 points per game. So I don't see much changing here. I think Mahomes is just a step up from what the Eagles have seen all year, and I think the Chiefs will get this win.
And I see you like an over as well. You like the over. That's a high total, Kenny.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like the total in a teaser. I actually
Mm,
teased the Chiefs up to 8.5 with the
mm.
under and the over. I think it'll be a game where we will see some points, but like you said, 50.5 is a lot. I think it started to tick up a little. What was it, 49.5 earlier this week, right? I think.
It got up to 51 in some spots too, and then it went back down. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I'm not a big totals guy, but yeah,
Yeah.
I look at this. I think the Chiefs will put up points, number one scoring offense in the NFL this year, and they're actually better away from Arrowhead Stadium. So yeah, and the Eagles, we already know what their offense is capable of. Best one of the what are they,
Yes.
the number one scoring first half team in the league. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked
Yes.
if we see a game, 27-24, 31-28 type of game.
I'm taking Chiefs money line as well. So I agree with you on this one. Part of me is just salty about last weekend, and the other part of me also is just Patrick Mahomes as an underdog, getting the Chiefs money line at plus money in a Super Bowl just seems wild to me. And to your point about the officiating or the bad calls, I do feel like when it's that now I don't believe that the NFL is rigged and any of that stuff. I'm not even touching that. But I do think that when there is really egregious bad calls that really affect the outcome, those teams tend to get a little something on the other side of it. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be not that officiating is going to be not calling things or whatever, but they tend to, if they've got a bad officiating game, they try to make up for it a little bit in the next game. So I do think that the Chiefs might be getting some, better calls there. Although I guess it was the Bengals that had the bad call. All right, never mind. I take all of that out because the Bengals are the ones that had all the bad calls. So maybe the NFL is rigged actually. And no, but I do think that when there is bad officiating, they try to make up for it. So I do think that, the officiating hopefully will be a little bit better in this game, which is better for everybody. And I'm going to lean under on this one. 50 just seems so high. For the last Super Bowls did go under the point total. And I know that these are two high powered offenses, and I do like the Eagles to score out pretty quick. But I also think that Jalen Hurts is, it's his first time. It's his first time in a Super Bowl. So, maybe there's some jitters there. And the Chiefs have been there 3 times. Patrick Mahomes, this will be his 3rd time coming there. So I give the edge over there to Andy Reid on the coaching side of things. And then, of course, I give the edge in the quarterback. Even if he is injured, he's a dog, and the Chiefs just won't die. And so give me the Chiefs plus money on the money line as well. And I'm going to lean under that total, but I'm going to wait because I do feel like people are going to start hammering this over and that it's going to tick up even higher. So I'm going to wait to lock in on that under. All right, let's look at some player props. Oh, you got something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you: are you shocked that the line moved the way that it has? Like, are you, because it opened as a pick. Actually, the look ahead was the Chiefs were the favorite in this game, like odds
Yeah.
makers, and then quickly, like 15, 20 minutes later, the Eagles are at -2.5, which
I think that
shocked.
people's looked at that NFC championship game, the 31-7, and are overreacting to that because the 49ers didn't have a quarterback, okay? You don't have a quarterback who could throw a ball and they stack the box like that and there's nothing to do. And then, the defense had, well, first of all, the officiating that game was also terrible. And, the defense made some mistakes that just gave them yards multiple times. So that was not a dominant performance by the Eagles. That was a good performance by a very good team, but they got incredibly lucky. And that's kind of what that score. So I think what people are looking at is like, oh, it was a close game. The Bengals almost beat the Chiefs, and the Eagles blew out the Giants, okay? And then also the 49ers, which again, that's a completely lopsided game. And they're just thinking Patrick Mahomes is injured, and they're kind of seeing all these storylines and they've got stars in their eyes. So they're hammering one side of it. But that's what I think is happening here. That's why I think this line is fluctuating. I think the smart money is on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs here.
Yeah, it's for people who want to bet the Eagles, one thing you have to remember is the Eagles' strength of schedule, 31st in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Quarterback play that they faced, not very good. You just look at the teams that they faced down the stretch of the year. There's been 13 games with a strength of schedule difference of 10 spots. So like the Chiefs have the 16th ranked strength of schedule, the Eagles are 31st. In those games, the team with the harder strength of schedule is 10-3 straight up.
Mm.
So pretty telling stat. And one of those losses was the Falcons lost to the Pats, where Brady's magic happened.
Yeah. Yes, Brady's magic did happen there. But I don't want to say that the Eagles had a cakewalk, though. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, they had a cakewalk." It's not easy to win a game in the NFL, okay? And their record does speak for itself. And they weren't winning games like the Vikings did, okay? So it's they were frauds, even though they had that kind of record. The Eagles are a very good team, but I do think that Patrick Mahomes gets the best of them in this. All right, let's talk about some player props. What are a couple props that you like to go over in the Super Bowl?
Over, I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes. Brady's gone, so he's the GOAT now. He's the GOAT. I can say that. Over 289 and a half passing yards, which is pretty funny because I've actually been riding that Eagles trend where only two quarterbacks have really gone over their passing yards all season, right? I talked about that when they played the Giants. He averaged 308 yards in the regular season. In games where the Chiefs ran at least 58 plays. So I think the Chiefs will be able to sustain, longer drives here. In games this year where the Chiefs ran at least 58 offensive plays, he's gone over this number 12 out of 14 times. So I think we'll see a big game from Mahomes.
I do too. And I think a lot of people, for some reason, not for some reason, for good reason, I guess, took him under his passing yards in the last game, thinking he was injured and all of these things. And then look, he had 333 passing yards. So I love that. I'm taking Pacheco over 48 and a half rushing yards is at -115. This just seems low for Pacheco. He's averages 61.4 yards per game during the Chiefs' 7-game winning streak. And Philly has allowed opponents an average of nearly 5 yards per catch with their primary running backs over their last 6 games. The Eagles also ranked 21st in rush defense DVOA and 24th in yards per rush allowed, which means there's going to be some holes here. And who better to find those holes than Pacheco? He had 42% of carries and 46% of his yardage between guards. So if there's already going to be some holes, he's definitely going to get there. He also logged a majority of the snap share in the AFC Championship with 15 total touches, 10 of those carries. So we do know the volume is going to be there to find some of those holes, particularly apparently through the left middle. According to Pro Football Focus, he has his highest rush frequency come from the middle left. So we'll have to see there. And what's another one that you like to go over?
I'm going to go Jalen Hurts over half an interception. It's +112 on Caesars Sportsbook, so you're getting plus money odds. It's always nice to get that. You already said it's his first Super Bowl. Obviously neither of us have played in a Super Bowl before, but I can only imagine the pressure that a 20-something-year-old guy is facing playing in such a big moment, right? The Chiefs defense, they've kind of stepped up down the stretch here. They're very opportunistic. They feature a lot of young players who over the course of the season, you can see they've kind of grown into the system, the scheme, and they're playing good football. So I think Jalen Hurts against this Chiefs team, I think they will be behind. I think the Eagles are going to have to change their game plan a little bit than what they've been used to all year, where they've kind of been playing these games comfortably with a very nice lead because, they're so dominant in that first half. So, yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is going to be more pressed, kind of have to do things on his own. And I think we'll see him throw up a cookie, as you like to call him.
A cookie, yes, that's actually a Danny Brasco word, but yes, I like that. And he didn't he throw an interception last week? Did the Niners get one from him? I think before everything went downhill. I like the Eagles to score a touchdown in the first quarter. Now I know that I am on the under in this game, and this isn't exactly an over prop bet, but it's a positive one on a game prop. The Eagles scored a league high of 62 points on opening drives in the regular season and have scored an opening drive touchdown in each playoff game. So even though I think that there's going to be, a little bit of nerves here, maybe the trends kind of speak for themselves. A plus 105 for the Eagles to score a touchdown in the first quarter alone seems like good odds to me.
That's a pretty cool stat that you pointed out because, I don't know if you've seen like Jordan Love on the Bills yesterday came out and said that anyone could win with this Eagles team. Like Nick Sirianni's not really doing much. But when you think about it, that first drive, is usually like a scripted game plan to take advantage of the defense. So that's a lot on the coach, right? And I think Nick Sirianni is getting a little bit of a bad rap for what he's done this year.
Yeah, he's a great coach, and you look at who they were last year, and then who they were this year, and you got to look at the coach for that. So I agree, and I don't really like him. I think his personality is interesting and a little bit different, and so he's not my favorite. But I think if he were my coach, he'd be my favorite. But he's one of those people like Richard Sherman, where if he's on your team, you love him, and if not, he rubs you wrong. Kind of one of those guys. But I do think that he is an incredible coach and deserves a lot of credit, both for these opening drives and also how well the Eagles have been playing. All right, so who are we fading? What are some props that you like to go under? Give me your first one.
So I guess we're not fading anyone here. This is an interesting one. It's the opening kickoff to be a touchback. No, is plus 140.
No, oh, okay. They're going to say yes. I was like, wow. Okay.
No, yeah, we're going to go with no. It's plus 140. And, it kind of sounds crazy, especially when you think now in the NFL, most of the kickoffs are touchbacks. Both of these kickers, actually Jake Elliott and Bucker, I think the kickoff rate is like touchback rate is like around 70% for this year for them. But if you look back on the historical side of Super Bowls, 28 of the last 32 Super Bowls, the first kickoff was not a touchback. And Pat McAfee came out last year on his podcast, and he was actually explaining why that is. And one, the kicker is usually a little bit more nerves in the game. And two, the football that they use for that first kickoff is more of like a ceremonial football. So it's not really like warmed up with during warm-ups and hasn't been kicked before. So it's just a fresh football out of the box. And then that ball is taken, put for the Hall of Fame.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So
I like that.
That's one of those angles for why those touchbacks aren't really as frequent on those kickoffs for to start off the Super Bowl.
Okay, I'm gonna tell that one with you. I love that. Okay, I'm taking Jalen Hurts under 241.5 passing yards. Is at minus 117. Despite blowing out the opponents in the two, postseason games thus far, Jalen Hurts has not even cracked 200 passing yards in either of those games, let alone 241.5. He's only gone over this number 5 times all season long out of 15 games. And those were against teams like the Bears, the Titans, Steelers, Vikings, Commanders, mostly bottom of the league secondaries, not necessarily the Commanders there. But KC's pass defense, they've had their issues, but they finished the regular season middle of the pack, ranking 16th in dropback EPA and 12th in dropback success rate. We know that the Eagles love to run the ball. I would even say that Philly is their best when their offense is very run heavy. We saw that, of course, last week. The Birds averaged 30 rush attempts per game and about 150 yards on the ground. Over 30 rush attempts. I believe it's about 33. So I think they run the ball a lot here. And I do think there may be some – I might take him over his longest because I do think he'll have maybe one breakout. But for the most part, I think they're going to run the ball a lot here. So the fact that he hasn't gone over 200 in the last 2 games, to expect him to go over 241 feels like a stretch to me.
No, yeah, definitely. I can see that one. I like that.
What else do you like going under?
Sprinkle.
Little sprinkle. What else do you like to go under?
Oh, I'm going to go Mahomes under rushing yards. It's 19.5 on Caesar Sportsbook. For the obvious reasons, one, his ankle's a little banged up. We don't know how healthy he'll be in 2 weeks, but he's actually only gone over this number 2 times since week 12. and he hasn't had more than 5 rushing attempts since week 10. So I think we'll see, we won't see too much of Mahomes running around and doing the crazy stuff we're accustomed to. And I think he'll stay under this number.
All right, I love that. Okay, I'm going to take Devonta Smith under 4.5 receptions. This is at plus 118. So not counting last week, Smith has actually had over 5 receptions in 7 games straight. However, the argument can be made that a lot of that had to do with Gardner Minshew favoring Smith over Brown. He got a majority of those targets during that time, and Smith's 2 highest target totals came when Minshew was throwing the ball. That said, I think that he kind of assumes the wide receiver 2 role again to Brown and in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs have been actually really solid against wide receiver 2s this season. In fact, they rank number 10. So top 10 against wide receiver number 2s. And let's not forget that Smith failed to catch 6 passes in 4 consecutive games before Jalen Hurts was injured. I feel like in big games, you trust your big guys. And I'm not sure that Smith is him. So I could see him again, maybe on one big breakout, but I don't think he's going to get as many targets as Brown will. And I do think they're going to be running the ball more. So I'm going to take him under the 4.5.
Does it have anything to do with that catch that wasn't a catch last week?
And also that too. I mean, that shouldn't have even been a catch. So thank
really
you for bringing that up. Really
I had
appreciate
to.
that.
I'm the 49ers mush. The curse is over, baby. Come on.
I don't count this as against the curse because there had to be injuries in order for that to happen. But fine. I'll give you that. The curse is over. Okay, so let's talk early leans for an anytime touchdown score. And I don't. Maybe this isn't even early lean. If you like it, you might as well book it whenever. Who do you like to score an anytime touchdown?
Yeah, so this kind of goes, plays off of what you just said about Devonta Smith and how the Chiefs defense is actually pretty solid against those number 2 wide receivers. I'm going to go A.J. Brown to find the end zone. He's been pretty quiet in the postseason so far, but we all know that's Jalen Hurts' number 1 guy. That's his number 1 option out there. He's hurt. Yeah, excuse me, can't speak here. A.J. Brown.
Right,
I'm rubbing
off on you.
Yeah. If you look at A.J. Brown's stats over the course of the season with Jalen Hurts, they're off the charts. He was having an amazing season before Jalen Hurts went down. And the Chiefs, if you look at their defense, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL against number 1 opposing wide receivers. So, not a really good mix for them there going up against A.J. Brown, who's a really, really good wide receiver. So, yeah, I think we'll see Jalen Hurts find A.J. Brown. Maybe it's a long pass or something like that, but I think A.J. Brown will definitely emerge here after 2 quiet games from him.
Okay, well, I like that, and I definitely think he's going to find the end zone. I'm maybe it's a square bet, but give me Kelsey for anytime touchdown. So minus 109, but also if you're looking for more value, which I kind of like, I'm going to take him also as the first Kansas City player to score a touchdown. That's at plus 300, so you can kind of play both of those. Kelsey had just a ridiculous year, 12 touchdowns. I believe it was a career high for him during the regular season, 3 in the playoffs so far. There is no pass catcher that has made more red zone opportunities, that has had more red zone opportunities than Kelsey. 38. The runner-up, Stephon Diggs, he only has 25, so it's not even close. Mahomes and Kelsey, also a little narrative here. They've combined for 13 postseason touchdowns, which are just 2 short of the all-time record from Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, who had 15. So I feel like they kind of know that too. So I don't know, maybe Kelsey for 2 touchdowns here, but I definitely think he's good for 1, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first player on Kansas City to score a touchdown.
Yeah, we're going to have to reach out to Caesars and coin the 2 touchdowns for the tight ends, the Moxie Bets special, because we just gravitate towards the tight ends.
Yes, we absolutely have. We are the tight end whisperers here. Okay, so now let's move on to college hoops. What are 2 games that you're looking at today? I know it's kind of a lighter slate this weekend, but just still wanted to pick your brain on college hoops.
Yeah, so these 2 games are for Saturday. These are both Saturday games, which unfortunately the lines are not out yet, but they're probably both going to be short underdogs in that 2 to 5 point range. But I'm looking at Indiana home taking on the number 1 team in the country, Purdue. Purdue's coming off 3 games of shooting 50% from the field, over 40% from 3. Anyone that watches basketball knows like those numbers are just not sustainable. Shocking that they've done it for 3 games in a row. I definitely don't see them doing it for 4 games.
Progression.
And then when you look at, and then when you just look at the matchups, Purdue relies heavily on their center, Zach Edey, and rightfully so, because I don't know if you've seen Purdue play this year, Katie, but it's almost like a flashback to watching like Wilt Chamberlain highlights when he,
Yes.
7 foot
No,
Wilt
they've been
Chamberlain versus little
crazy.
guys.
They only have 3 losses so far, right? I mean, one of those was a blowout, but they've been great.
Yeah, Purdue's really good, and they should be. Zach Edey, like I said, you got to watch him. He's 7'3". It's literally like he's playing against little ants out there. But Indiana has a lot of they got some good big men as well. Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson. So I think they'll be able to slow him down, and I expect Indiana to get the win. But take him with the points and on the money line.
Ooh. Wow, big upset there. Another game that you're looking at for college hoops this weekend.
Yeah. So the other one, we're going to go Texas Tech. They're playing Baylor. These two teams played earlier this year. Baylor won by 7 points at Texas Tech. In that game, Texas Tech didn't have not one of their better shooting nights. They missed 7 free throws that night, shooting only 50% from the line. Texas Tech is one of those teams. It's weird because they started the year 10-2, and then they lost 8 straight games once conference play started. And the Big 12, Big 10, those are two conferences. They usually beat up on each other. Texas Tech, 2 straight wins. They're kind of rebounding now, finding their stride again. Baylor coming off a tough game versus Texas and a loss on the road. So I just think it's going to be one of those games where maybe Baylor's a little sluggish out to start. Texas Tech, jump out to a lead and get the win there.
I love it. All right, let's move on to Mox Locks. What are the 2 bets that we are making for tonight? I'll start things off here. I'm taking the Magic +5 versus the Timberwolves. Everything that I have read today is screaming to take the Timberwolves here. However, when I looked at, where the money is with this, they have 32% of bets, but 83% of the money on Orlando as dogs. And I have bet them a few times recently, and they've been cashing for me, specifically with the Celtics. So I'm following the Sharps with this one. I know no crazy analysis here, but I am expecting Magic with Orlando +5, 83% of the money, only 32% of bets. Riding with it. What do you like?
And sometimes you don't need the crazy analysis, right? Sometimes it's just that easy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Domantas Sabonis to get a triple-double. It's +178.
Ooh.
Yeah, we got the Kings at the Pacers. He's taking on his old team. And, kind of similar to – I don't have any crazy analysis for this. But, one, the guy's almost averaging a triple-double, 18 points, 12 boards, 7 assists. But why is a triple-double only +178? I mean, I feel like it's got to be a lot harder than that. So I just think the odds are too low here. So yeah, I'm gonna go Domantas Sabonis to ball out against his former team.
Okay, I love that. I'm going to take kind of a similar vein, but not necessarily. Chris Paul over 16.5 points tonight. I feel like he's been getting a lot of shade, and people have been saying, he's falling off or he's getting old and he's not doing so good. And I think his minutes in the last game really kind of affected his numbers. But when I was looking at him, he averages 21.5 points per game this season and almost 3 made threes each game, 2.8. And you're going to get him all the way down to 16.5. I'm going to take that over. What else do you like?
Yeah, I wonder why that's set so low. I was telling
I think
Cecily
it's because he didn't have a good game, but he also didn't really play a lot of minutes. So yeah, I mean, you're averaging 21.5. You have this bumped all the way down to 16.5, and that's not to take anything away from the Timberwolves, but I just think that this is too low for Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean, guy's a Hall of Famer, point God. So next Mox Lock, I'm gonna give you a Saturday bet. Indiana. Ooh. I love Indiana. I'm gonna take them with the points. I'm gonna take them on the money line. I think we're gonna see them storm the court after the game, which it's on my bucket list to do. But yeah, I just think Indiana is really, they started the year off good, then they hit a big slump where they lost a bunch of games, and now they're kind of getting things rolling again. And I like this spot for them a lot.
Okay, well, I'll be rooting for that one along with you. Kenny Bets Big, thank you so much. Can't wait to talk more. Again, more Super Bowl coming your way, guys. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social @Moxie Bets, and we will see you in Arizona.